Happy New Year and welcome to another Amy Harrill podcast. Today
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, Amy. It's January 3rd,
Wow.
2023.
Okay, I love a new year. I learned through the work that I do with my daughter. For those of you that don't know, she lives with Down syndrome, and we have just found great success in the neuroscience field for her development. And so there was multiple traumas to her body because of surgery. So the neuroscience community was able to help her brain come back awake so that she could develop after those traumas happened. One day we'll have to talk about that. But one thing I learned through this community that we're just engrossed in, I mean, our entire developmental plan involves neuroscience. And one thing that they discovered was that when you create a resolution, there is some pictures in your mind's eye that go with that resolution. So for instance, let's say that I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay. There is a picture that I have in my mind of what a 20-pound lighter Amy looks like. Right. And so my mind releases those feel good endorphins and the brain's, hey, look at what you did. Okay. I haven't even lost a half a pound. But the brain is so excited because I've got that picture in my mind. It sends information to me that it's already done. This is why resolutions don't last beyond a certain point, is because you're fighting the brain saying, hey, it's already done. What are you doing? So they actually recommend that you set ideas in your mind of what it's going to take to get this goal done. So it's very interesting. So we sit down and we develop plans of action that it's going to take to move us to a certain outcome. But we don't really focus on, this is what I want. We say, okay, this is what I want to do this year. And so it all is around the action and not the outcome. And it requires a great deal of discipline because you really cannot go there till it's there. Like you can't emotionally go there. I literally have to reserve judgment on myself. I don't know what the outcome is going to look like. I just know that I am going to do this more this year. So it's really been mind-blowing and very different.
If I'm hearing you, you're saying focus on the process,
Yeah.
the journey, the actions, habits that will get you to a certain outcome. But you don't focus on the outcome so much. You focus on the journey and the process.
We don't really determine the outcome because that's most often what we do is we say, this is the outcome, but there's a lot more at play here, including the divinity of our creator that says, actually, your outcome is in my hands, right? And letting that influence of God, the creator, influence where we need to become better humans.
Correct.
So it's been a fascinating journey. And what's so cool is every year, we make more and more money and have more and more time. It's amazing. But that's not the focus. So
that's right.
I digress. We are going to have to maybe dive into that one episode because that's really fun. It would be really juicy to hear your process because you've touched on it with me and your wife's included in that process. And I think it's fascinating. So we need to talk about that.
We'll go there.
Yeah, we will.
But today's episode is going to be one of those episodes where I think the listeners or viewers will either flinch, kind of like the butt squeeze, like, or, oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm already there. That's good. So the question is a disorderly environment responsible for disorderly conduct?
Yeah.
Amazing. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I'm going to first answer this question from what research and science have found. The answer is you don't have to search high or low to realize that with new information, we all know that our behavior is clearly influenced by our surroundings. Most of us would act differently in a church versus a nightclub.
That's
right?
true.
But new research, Sherman, shows that subtle differences, because church and nightclub are extremes, right? Those are big differences. But this new research shows that very subtle differences can have a significant behavioral impact.
Okay.
Decades ago, you might have heard this theory proposed. It's called the broken window theory. And it was based on an observation of an old industrial building. So the observation was this: if a broken window wasn't repaired promptly, that unfixed window seemed to be an invitation for troublemakers to break the rest of the windows. Have you heard of this
Is it
theory?
similar to that theory of graffiti on a wall
Yes.
building? Yeah, that
Yes.
type of theory.
Exactly. This theory, actually, the broken window theory, was the basis for Rudy Giuliani's successful effort to cut crime in New York decades ago. And it began with cracking down on just these minor violations like subway turnstile jumping and harassment of drivers by squeegee men, right? It's just these very subtle crackdowns that made these massive impact. Now, the broken window theory is a bit of a hot button. It's questioned by some because it was more anecdotal than research based. But there's been new research that provides evidence that broken windows are just one example of how behavior is affected by the degree of disorder in our surroundings. So there was a study done by scientists in the Netherlands, and it empirically demonstrated a phenomenon that was observed and captured by these policymakers and law enforcement officials for years. So what they did is they took an envelope and they made it visible, and the envelope contained €5 notes, and it was left hanging out of a mailbox on a sidewalk. So 13% of the passerbys, Sherman, snatched it up. When this same mailbox was covered in graffiti, that number doubled. So 27% stole the envelope. But then, to your point, when graffiti was added, that fostered this very cavalier attitude toward thefts. But again, they added another variable, which was litter on the ground at the bottom of the mailbox. 25% of people that passed that consistently kept stealing the envelope.
Okay.
And these are both social and statistical reasons, and they're significant as to how minor subtleties in our environment make a huge impact on how we behave. Here's how this relates to us as owners. For those owners that are not profitable, okay, meaning that you cannot consistently pay yourself a paycheck every month and know how much you're going to be able to pay yourself. And there isn't money in the business to always be acquiring new clients because new client acquisition has a cost associated with it. You cannot scale or grow a business off of labor hours only. Money has to be part of the equation.
Yeah.
So when you observe these owners, and this has been 2 decades of me working with these owners, what I've observed is they also have disorderly environments. Non-profitable owners have disorderly environments. And here's what those environments look like as a rule. There's a lot of tech. Like the answer is, let me add another new piece of technology. There's typically flashy studio equipment, right? Like they've got like green screens and expensive video players and things, camcorders or whatever they're called. I don't have them, but I have been where I'm like, this looks like a TV studio. What are we doing here? Or they operate solely on referrals. So they're just like hoping and praying every day the phone's going to ring from the lunch they did 90 days ago. And if you get close enough to these owners, which I've had the privilege, and I've also been this owner, full disclosure, I've also been this owner. And I know from experience and I know from observation that most often disorderly environments that lead to scattered owners that are not profitable makes these owners insecure. And they're constantly fighting a fear, either fear of running out of time and money, fear of losing it all, fear of growing non-important to the people around them. And most often we fall prey to that shiny object syndrome, which really says that priority walks out of the building 700 times a day because we're constantly changing the priorities because we don't know what the priorities are, right? So that is how this idea of an environment that is chaotic leads to chaotic behavior, which ultimately for the owner leads to chaotic outcomes, is so true for us as owners. It's a lot.
I can see the truth in that. And I can also see a lot of business owners fighting back, pushing back
Mm.
on that, because I can see some folks will say, but there's science about ADHD and the way we have our desk and stuff, or the gear is important for this production, or all that stuff. But I can definitely see the truth in kind of like garbage in, garbage out. Like
Yep.
this is the old adage of dirty desk, dirty mind, or
Mhm.
dirty business practice, or whatever. Yeah. Where do you see that? Does it get worse than that? What you're talking about, the
And
impact of it?
yeah, it can, because they don't know when an owner says to me what you said, like they do these live videos every day or once a week using this flashy studio equipment, and I will say, "Okay, what is the return on investment? How many people watch your video and then convert to a sale?" I don't really have those numbers. Okay. All right. So we don't really know if you need the flashy studio equipment, or if you need to go live on social media weekly or daily, or if you need to have 4 or 5 different tech lanes coming into the business, maybe AI, maybe email automation, maybe advertising. We don't really know, because the owner cannot tell me the proof of that from a number standpoint, because technology does not operate off of feeling. It is purely informational. We're talking about information technology, and information needs to be measured to ensure that it's right, or that it's getting us what we want. As the owner, if we're using a methodology that is not making us money and we're not making enough money, then my question is, why are we doing it?
It's a very fair question.
Yeah, and I think that is the question that each of us as owners need to say, why am I doing this? If it's not making me money, or if I'm not aware that it's making me money, what do I do?
Yeah, because
You
it
know?
starts from what's the desired outcome? Well, make
Mhm,
money, profit.
mhm.
If that's the case, then process needs to be measured
Yeah, that's right.
to get you
Mm.
outcome.
And I would say I don't have a business just to make money. There's these things I wanna do with that money, right?
Mhm.
But it is irresponsible for me to just be working and spending money and not actually getting a return on my investment.
Mhm.
Unless I just am a gazillionaire and the IRS is gonna come after me for taxes and I need to spend it, but that is not this audience. You just need to be really clear about that, that we
Right.
need to at some point make money for something else, and that's honorable. It's
Mhm.
honorable.
So what we're doing in our business is a fundraiser for other
Mhm.
things. Yeah.
That's right, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to give some hope to
Mhm.
those that can see the validation of what you're proposing, what is a few things that we
Mhm.
can pivot or change or refine?
Yeah. The very first thing I'm going to say, and I will give you practical application of this, is slow down. Now,
Mm.
typically when I say to owners, we got to slow down to speed up, I mean, their central nervous system, they fight physical feelings of anxiety and fear, because what they hear me say is, you need to stop making money over here so that you can start making money over there. But that
Mhm.
is not what I'm saying. So, in neuroplasticity, to reinforce some of the learning that I'm going through with my daughter, it is so interesting to me. And knowing how algorithms are in large part mirrored after the human brains. Algorithmic
Mhm.
engineers, they study several different inputs to create an algorithm. And one of those inputs is the human brain, because it is one of the most sophisticated systems of information on the planet. And so there's all kinds of AI that is working to mimic the human brain. And algorithms in social media have essentials of the human brain worked into the technology. One of those essentials is something that neuroscience calls slowing down. It's very
Okay.
simple, very
Okay.
elementary. It is one of the 9 essentials of neuroplasticity, as found by a guy named Mike Mersnick, as along with some other neuroscientists. So what
Mm.
this essential says is that when the brain needs to get better at its job, the only way to get its attention is to slow down. So that's
Okay.
slowing down activity, right? So if I want my brain to learn a language, I don't just start just rambling gibberish. That's not how it learns. I have to slow down and I have to say it slowly. I have to listen to it slowly. You just learned a new language, right? Correct?
I'm hacking at it.
Yeah, you're hacking away at Italian, right?
Yeah, but it's really just to get by, to order food,
and get where you need to get to,
and to be able to say hi and hello and connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, when you went to learn Italian, is it Italian that you're learning?
Italian, and then I'm actually going to, for the first 6 months this year, it'll be Spanish because we'll be traveling to Barcelona soon.
Okay.
And then the second half of this year, I'm going to pick up on Italian again.
Okay.
But you're right. You're right. You have to slow down.
Yep.
So that you can pick up on, let's say, the rolling R's, like buongiorno.
Yep.
So slowing down in order to get it, and even breaking a word that has maybe 3 syllables into 1 or 2 syllables to start, and then add the other one in.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. So that is just an essential to the brain learning something new. Now, once the brain has sent enough information to the tongue and the tongue can roll those R's really fast, then you've got that beautiful sound that it makes. I can't do it, so I am not going to embarrass myself here. But there is this beauty that comes when the brain knows how to do something really well. And we hear that when someone knows how to roll their R's. Right? So if we want to get better and more profitable, the first thing we have to do to slow down is to actually add a new step to the work we're currently doing. So the money needs to continue to come in for us to be responsible and for us to continue to pay the bills and continue to be a functioning part of society and not go to jail. Okay, so I'm never going to tell a client, hey, stop doing that, especially if the household income is dependent upon it. But what I'm going to say is we need to add in phase that teaches you how to listen to your current clients and people that look like those clients differently. So research is the first thing that we add in, but the natural byproduct is we slow down and learn how to listen differently to the client. So digital marketers have taught us to listen to the client through the vein of, have you considered hiring a business coach, for instance? That would be a question used for a demographic study. Our research goes beyond the demographics of what we can see and taps into the motivations of why would they be hiring a business coach, right? So we would ask a question like, as it relates to your business success, what are your 3 daily frustrations? Do you see the difference? And that automatically teaches us to listen differently, which is a slowing down so that we can get more and more of the right people faster and faster, and also optimize a system of information like an algorithm so it too can go find these people faster. Make sense?
Rephrase that, Amy. Say it a different way.
Okay. So when we slow our work down and we start to focus on listening to our clients from a different angle, what it allows us to do is it allows us to optimize our working hours so that we make more money in less time. And it also allows us to give new information to technology so it can go and get the clients that are going to find value in our work and hire us.
So better refinement, giving better results using the tech that we have.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of throwing pasta on the wall and seeing what sticks, you just throw the 3 strands of pasta.
That's right. That's right.
That will stick.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then the second thing that I guide my clients to do to slow down is we flip the testing phase. So tech and digital marketers tell us to test means we need to now take the tech into the market and see what results it provides for us first. And I say, no, we're going to flip that process around, and you, the owner, are going to spend some time with other humans that look like your ideal client, listening to them, asking them a very specific line of questions that helps you determine what is it that they really want? What is it that they really need solved? And can you do that? So we change the testing process from just flying technology or digital ads and just slinging pasta, if you will, against the wall and hoping and praying it sticks because we don't have a lot of money or any money at all to be doing that. And we say, we're going to go human to human. And we lay down a set of numbers that tells us these humans are trending towards conversion. And then once they convert, we now know we could go to a system of technology and tell it what we just learned. And that thing will bring us more and more of that human in less time with less money.
Because you're asking humans for
Yes.
their inputs, and the exact lingo in which they're sharing is what you put into your tech
That's right.
to attract the same kind of audience, humans.
Yeah.
And assuming that you can select the right humans to survey or interview.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, which is part of that research process. We actually determine who are the right humans to put through the research that look more like the people that have converted in the past.
And I know this is part of your consulting with your clients, in which you bring them through this process, including the questions to ask the humans to elicit that feedback that you need, right?
Yep.
So when you speak to disorderly environments, that speaks to not only our physical environments, the room, the different bedrooms in a house, let's say if you're working at home, to our digital environments, our computers, what's in our drives. And of course, our physical stuff includes like cameras and gear and stuff like that. Let's say somebody is at a point where they go, you know what, there's some truth to that. I'm not going to fight this. I can see the truth in it. I would assume that a great first place to start would be clean up and organize your environment. It's easier, in my mind, to organize my physical environment than it is to clean up my digital environment, because I have so much in my drives that I almost need to, in my drives, in my Windows computer, I'm adding an exclamation mark to folders to bring them further up the line so that those are the ones I focus on more than the ones that are alphabetically categorized.
Wow. That just makes me tired and overwhelmed.
Okay, I'm like the poster child. I'm no longer allowed to go to AppSumo for FOMO and shiny object syndrome.
Good.
Because my sponsor was kicking me out of the 12-step AppSumo and Anonymous program.
That's right. Good.
It's a running joke amongst my colleagues because they all know this.
God. Yes.
And,
yes.
So I don't claim to be, I'm a recovering addict from that situation.
Yeah.
But what's some other simple steps that owners can pivot and grow and change?
One thing I would say is don't even try to change your physical environment or your tech environment first. When you lack money in the business, and you might have lots of money coming in, but the business cannot duplicate its success with money, and you cannot consistently pay yourself well. So it's every month, it's like where's the next feast going to come from, right? If that is where you are, which the majority of the people in this audience might be experiencing that, and it might only be in one lane of the business. The rest of the business might be profitable, but you might have a lane here that you're saying, we need to scale this, and we don't really have the money. This lane is not profitable yet, and we don't have a way to go and acquire new clients financially. Then the very first system I would say you add to your business is a money management system, something that will help you have a profit lane, a paycheck lane, a tax lane, a operations lane, and that verbatim, there is a rolling snowball effect to that money management system. Budget is my favorite B word. You can ask anyone that knows me well. I have a personal family budget, and my husband and I follow that thing like clockwork. And then I have a money management system inside of my business, which literally snowballs every single month. Like I get to the end of the year and my tax bill is paid. I'm not concerned about the tax bill coming because the money is sitting there in my account ready to pay it. I don't have to worry about if I'm going to be able to pay for advertising because the money is sitting there. I don't have to worry about if I can pay my contractors because the money is sitting there. And every month I get to pay myself 50%. Boom, right off the top, write myself a paycheck. It's amazing. But it took me some time to find this money management system that would do that for me. I had a different budget. It was great, but it wasn't as simplified as this one that I'm using now. And I recommend it to everyone that will listen, and it's Profit First. So Profit First is a money management system. You can buy the book, and that's where I started. I don't have a Profit First accountant. I don't follow the Profit First bank accounts yet, but I have ledgers that act as those physical bank accounts for me. So I have ledgers versus physical bank accounts. So once you read the book or listen to the book on Audible, this conversation will make sense to you. But that is the one thing I recommend you do today, January 3rd, 2023. Go get the book, go download it on Audible, and do what it says.
Yeah, that's the one by
do what it says.
Michael Michalowicz, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And if you have questions about it, if you're listening to it or you're reading it and it's like trying to interpret another language, then reach out to me. You can get to me directly through the page that this is linked to. You can come right to me at amyharrill.me. You can literally come right into my inbox and I will be happy to send you the formula. It takes me 30 seconds. It's so simple. Anything I can do to help you, because once you've established some order there where there's disorder financially, now you can start to get your head above the water and say, okay, I can see where my money is. There's now sense where there was nonsense. And to be quite honest with you, that's the brain's primary job, is to make sense of nonsense and to bring order to disorder. When you do that, you too will be able to operate systems beyond the money, and you will see them return on their investment very quickly.
Right. And that is, I can vouch for that. That's a great concept, great system, great book. So Michael Michalowicz's book, Profit First, is your recommendation as a starting place.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
That's great. I mean, thank you so much for today's episode. Really rich, nice little slap in the face for the beginning of the year. I appreciate that very much.
I needed it too, man.
Yeah, no kidding. For those who are listening and viewing, thank you for staying tuned. Catch up with us on the next episode on the Amy Harrill Podcast.
Okay. Bye, guys.